And given that both Matthew and Luke claim that Joseph was not the father of Jesus, those genealogies are completely irrelevant. That means if Jesus was in fact born of a virgin, then he's not a descendant of King David and therefore is ineligible to be the Messiah. This is exactly why Daniel chapter 7 assures you that the Messiah is going to be a son of a man. Yes, sir.
How does the church deal with the fact that the genealogy of Jesus in their scriptures doesn't match? And they try to take the kingship through the father of Joseph, who's not really his father anyway, and insert that in there, and then they mention Mary. It doesn't work. And I believe the number of descendants isn't the same.
Okay, so let me rephrase that. How do Christians deal with the fact that we have two genealogies of Jesus in the Gospels? One found in the book of Matthew. In fact, that's how every New Testament starts. The first 17 verses is the genealogy of Matthew. And then you have the genealogy in the book of Luke, chapter 3. At first glance, the difference that is very striking to people, I think most Christians know that Luke's genealogy traces Joseph's line back to Adam, and Matthew doesn't. I think that's what people are generally aware of. The genealogies are just completely different. Who was Joseph's father? Jacob, Matthew, Haley, Luke. It depends which book you read. It's not like he had two names. You just go all the way back and then just completely different. Now, Christians, how do they deal with that alone? Oh, they would say that this is how it goes. This is definitely the answer you're going to get. That Matthew is recording Joseph's genealogy, while Luke, on the other hand, is recording Mary's genealogy.
I've come to a spot lately with the genealogies you made reference to. In Matthew 1 and in Luke 3, the genealogies of Christ are very different at points. They diverge. And it seems there's so many different voices with so many different opinions about whose genealogy is what. And I guess my question for you is how do we make sense of those differences, and does that affect how we think about the resurrection or anything else? Does anything else kind of become shaky because of
well, as I understand it, the two genealogies, Matthew and Luke, are tracing different bloodlines.
Okay.
One is tracing Mary's bloodline and the other is tracing Joseph's bloodline. Okay. So they're going to be different.
And it's Mary that's from the house of David. Then you have to ask the question, well, it doesn't say that. And in fact, it says in Luke 1:27 that it's Joseph that's from the house of David, which explains away why the family had to move to Bethlehem from Nazareth because of a census. And because Joseph was from the house of David, they had to move there. Luke makes a very big deal about the census, which explains why would a family living in the Upper Galilee move to Judea, which is like 90 miles south. It's because of some census where everyone had to return back to the town of their origins 1,000 years ago. In what universe do census people go back to the town their family came from 1,000 years ago? If you asked to go back to the town your family lived in 1,000 years ago, where exactly would you go? The way censuses work is census takers move and go from house to house, and people stay put. And there were censuses, but that's how it works in America, and that's how it always worked. So this is a device, and it's a sloppy device. But that's the answer you'd be given, and the really sharp Christian would go, well, after all, Luke is very Mary-oriented. I alluded to that earlier, that it's Mary that's having the visions, Mary that's told about the virgin conception in Luke. In Matthew, Joseph is getting all these things, so that would line with that. But it isn't, because we are always assured in both of these Gospels, this is the genealogy of Joseph. And given that both Matthew and Luke claim that Joseph was not the father of Jesus, those genealogies are completely irrelevant. That means if Jesus was in fact born of a virgin, then he's not a descendant of King David and therefore is ineligible to be the Messiah. This is exactly why Daniel chapter 7 assures you that the Messiah is going to be a son of a man. And the reason is to dissuade you from believing in any person that is said to be born of a virgin. Right? This is Galatians 4:4. Paul will say he's the son of a woman, that's all. Okay, so that's really the way the answer goes. Now, you asked, there are tremendous problems here. Obviously, it's not supported by the text. Really crazy is Matthew 1:17, where Matthew invokes the notion that there are 3 sets of 14 generations going from Abraham to David, which is 14, going from David until the Babylonian exile, and then going again from the Babylonian exile until Christ. But what the author had to do was expunge 3 generations in order to get that. Somebody later edited one more name, and it was one name too many, tried to get Jeconiah out, but instead took out his father instead of the son, and he remains there in verse 11. So we can go on, but I don't want to lose you here in the process. But that's how it would go down.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא ואת נעשה